What is your reporting on Justin Jefferson and what's going on with him and the Vikings for a new contract, despite him being only 3 years in to the league?
Well, it's my understanding that Minnesota is open to doing it. They're committed to signing him long-term at some point. I know it's going to be a massive windfall for Jefferson, that he's going to probably have to be close to the highest quarterback, highest paid that's not a passer in the league. We're talking Aaron Donald-type money potentially. But I don't think they're there yet. I think they've gotten the ball rolling on some preliminary talks. And, look, Jefferson wasn't at OTAs. I was told it wasn't a direct reflection of the contract situation, but who knows with these type of things. He could be upset that the ball's not further along here. So we could see this heat up closer to training camp or well into training camp. It's just tough because the track record recently for guys that aren't quarterbacks to get a deal after 3 years on a first-round player contract, because the team has 2 years left with that fifth-year option. So it just makes it tough. I mean, even Nick Bosa and guys like that had to wait a year. So, that could be – I was told it's going to be tough to do because of the sheer money that would have to be involved. But the Vikings are going to sort of chip away at this.
How many wide receivers have gotten a contract, first-round drafted wide receiver gotten a new contract after 3 years? Would Jefferson be the first? Is this a groundbreaker right here, Jeremy?
So I have to look back. I don't remember offhand. There had to have been one, but it's so beneficial for guys who are not picked in the first round. I mean, just this last year, you had Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, D.K. Metcalf. Jefferson is higher in the receiver pantheon than those guys, but yet all very good players who got deals after 3 years because they weren't beholden to that fifth-year option of first-round picks. So it's rare. There's got to be one out there, but I don't know of one offhand.
That's why I'm kind of bringing it up, is just wondering if there is a pressurized situation where the Vikings know this is what they need to do for a player of his stature. They know This is what they have to do for a player of his stature to let everyone in the locker room know, if you ball out, we are going to give you what you feel you deserve. They know they've got to do it sooner rather than later because the price is only going to go up. But there's definitely 31 other teams that might be looking at him saying, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, if they want to justify the contract now, they can do it, because of the caliber of the player. Really, probably the best player at his position right now. So if you're going to reward anybody who's not a quarterback, he would be that guy. But this is the game, right? You start probably lower than you need to be with the money. The player gets upset. You posture a little bit. Maybe you can bridge the gap before the season, but if you don't, you can do it next summer, and it's going to cost the team a little bit more because they waited. But a lot of times teams are willing to do that. The Vikings are in a really interesting place because of the new GM and head coach. They had a lot of success last year, but they won a lot of close games. Who knows if they can replicate it, but they're kind of rebuilding on the fly while they stay competitive because they know they have Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and those guys, and the offense is going to be pretty good. But they moved on from a lot of players. You got Daniil Hunter, who my understanding is if he's not getting a new deal from them, he'd like to go somewhere else where they will give him a new deal. So they're kind of slow playing that. Jefferson, they haven't got to the finish line on. So, Kirk Cousins is pretty much – this is maybe the most underrated, underplayed story in the league, is that he's going into free agency. This is a top 12 quarterback with no contract, and it looks like he's going to play it out and has bet on himself time and time again. So the Vikings are trying to, I think, saddle themselves from some of those older contracts that were bloated on the back end to try to reset their books. But in the meantime, you have some players that could be frustrated as a result.
Certainly if they lose Dalvin Cook, right? Where they're like, so we're not paying Dalvin, so the money that you're saving, doesn't that come to some of us who are waiting for it? Like, that's the way I sometimes see how NFL locker rooms work, and to the detriment if something doesn't happen before playing season. Certainly with the division no longer having Aaron Rodgers in it, I'm sure everybody kind of feels like the Wicked Witch is dead. Let's go try and win, as the Vikings did last year, to try and repeat.
Right. And so yes, and you would think so, but they're kind of trying to stay competitive while scale back some money. Like Dalvin Cook, I think they would have brought him back on a reduced salary, which he was never going to go for. It's just some of those, sort of machinations are in play where there's going to be a little bit of player frustration, but like they know with what they have in place with the offense, they're going to be able to put up points. And yes, the division is wide open. You almost sense a little more urgency from Detroit than you do Minnesota. Like talking to people around the league, Detroit feels like, hey, this is our division to lose right now. Like we're going to go get it. And they have some cap space if they want to make an additional move for a leftover free agent out there. I don't sense that they're going to go after Hopkins or anything like that, but I could see them adding a veteran receiver, maybe like a Jarvis Landry type, So two different franchises that are in different places. Funny enough, Detroit was probably in the same place a year ago that Minnesota is now, even though Minnesota's coming off a 13-win season. But same sort of rebuild functions, trying to sort of stockpile a little bit of money in draft picks.
Jeremy Fowler, NFL insider from ESPN here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.